This being the case, I called an emergency meeting. The people attending were me, Vildor, Ramrus, and the observer, Masayuki. I also summoned Miles, who ran the project. After confirming everyone's arrival, I lead the opening statement. Everyone, it has been 3 days since the Labyrinth went public, but this is not looking good. To be blunt, it actually sucks. For entertainment, no, in order to have anyone want to return to our Labyrinth. I think it would be best to provide them with a level of guidance. First off, people would have problems reaching the 10th floor if we were to continue like this. If that were to be the case, our Labyrinth would probably have to be put on hold as a result. That's why I came to the conclusion that we had to at least educate them about strategy to some degree. Rimuru is right. If we allow this to continue, there won't be a chance for me to shine, no matter how much longer I wait. Seriously. Floors 50 and below are my proud work. I really want the world to see them. I think we can give them some hints. And so, I got Vildor and Ramrus's approval. Masayuki seemed to be pondering something actually, he seemed confused. He didn't know why he was here and seemed to feel out of place. After all, he got summoned so abruptly. Anyhow, it looked like Masayuki probably needed a while to regain his cool, after which I would ask for his opinion. I shifted my gaze away from Masayuki and over to Miles. Getting to see Masayuki, who he admired greatly, had left him beaming with joy. It was probably the reason why he was particularly well prepared to speak on the matter. May I have a word about it? Any suggestion is welcome. Speak your mind, there's no need to hold back. Hearing this, Miles nodded. Regarding the matter of giving hints, I hope you can be reserved about the number. It's only been 3 days and whatever adventures we had so far, each one of them had subpar skill. I have already made contact with some seasoned adventurers through the Freedom Association. Therefore, I believe that there, surely, will be more adventurers of rank C or higher with greater abilities in the future. Is it going to work? Yes. Although I can't grasp what's on Yuki-sen's mind, he did carry out his end of our deal. He contacted all the divisions of the Freedom Association throughout the land via magic communication, in order to promote us. I see, so there's some benefit to hosting one of their branches here after all. Anything else? Yes. I've asked for favors from the merchants to assist in advertising. The experienced bodyguards and street mobs that were acquainted with them also joined the cause. Their report seemed to indicate very good feedback from the public. Both the delivery and collection of information were important. I then introduced Saka to Miles and told her to assist him in his work. Saka was the leader of Dark Shadows, and she also hosted the festival events with Miles. It seemed that Miles was good at dealing with people, and so the two immediately got along. I was glad that there was no prejudice involved. And with that, several of Saka's subordinates began operating under Miles' command. As a matter of fact, even Saoi helped him out with things. Saoi was currently investigating Duke Muse's activity. I indirectly ordered him to also promote our nation during his mission. As a result, word of the dungeon even managed to reach some distant villages that weren't home to a division of the Freedom Association. In other words, we will wait for elites to gather from all across the land, and then make a decision. Indeed. This project has just gone public, Miles said enthusiastically. We have no need to rush in order to see any results just yet. I believe that we should calm down now and set our eyes on the future. Moreover, if the noblemen invest in the conquest, we can expect to see adventurers with rank B and above. Seeing Masayuki nodding in admiration, Miles seemed to be pleased. Looks like he was eager to show off his abilities in front of Masayuki. What he said made sense as well. It was all because of how much Vildor and Ramrus complained that I too got nervous all of a sudden. Bassin's entire squad combined could be considered as rank B. With their current equipment, their individual abilities were around C to C+, far from outstanding. If the conquests were handled by someone above rank B, surely, they would familiarize themselves with the Labyrinth without requiring many hints. In our Labyrinth, you could pay to have your personal safety ensured. Even if we left them to their own devices, these experienced adventurers would be able to devise their own strategies. That's right, there's no use for us to rush things. Public interest in the Labyrinth was high. Apart from magic crystals, you could also harvest materials from the monsters, and knowing that you could sell these for a pretty penny, there was no end to the number of people who came flocking to the Labyrinth. The nobles were also quick to react. Their willingness to partake in the conquest business was higher than we imagined. Some were quick-witted enough to immediately hire adventurers upon returning to their nation, requesting them to help with the Labyrinth conquest. These hired adventurers weren't driven into rash actions by their own desires. They would only operate after proper preparations and setting up plans. Right now, there weren't as many of these types of adventurers, but I expected to see a rise in number in the future. Then what should we do? We've set up an armory on the first floor. Should we have the challengers try things out over there? Try out? What can they try there? Ramrus wasn't the only one who was confused, so I began to explain my idea. I was thinking about setting up a training ground for people to practice. They can study how to counter traps and how to fight against monsters. Wouldn't that be more meaningful compared to giving them hints? We could also build a stadium of sorts along with it. Due to the increasing number of novice recruits to our nation's army, I hope that this would be beneficial to their training. There wouldn't be any fatal accidents in the labyrinth, so maybe this would provide some very meaningful combat experience. An unexpected ally came forth to support my idea. It was Masayuki. If that were to be the case, he interjected rather casually, I think it would also be nice to hold lectures about the dungeon conquest. I looked at Masayuki in surprise. Ah, was it bad for me to cut in like that? No, there's no such thing. Hey, that's good. The topic you guys were discussing sounded quite interesting. Even I could follow along, so I accidentally cut in, Masayuki said with a wry smile. He was adapting faster than I imagined, but he did seem kind of bold. Then what sort of lecture should we hold? Should we have all the adventurers gather at the big conference room if we were to hold lectures? It would be very helpful to explain how the labyrinth worked to them. We can imitate tutorials in video games. Tutorials. What is that? That sounds tasty. Is it food? Masayuki's suggestion got Vildor and Rammus's attention. And I thought that Vildor would know, but it seemed he actually had no idea about it. The language in this world could be translated pretty accurately, but while lacking a shared understanding of a subject, it would be hard for two parties to make sense of what the other was saying. Since Vildor had no idea what a tutorial was, Rammus couldn't have known either. And so, Masayuki and I began to explain what tutorials were. It's like a facility to train their abilities. We can simulate what actually takes place in the labyrinth. Rimuru-san is right. I think it is important to experience all possible scenarios before entering the labyrinth. If we can teach everyone the basics in the form of missions, I'm sure that it will be easier even for the adventurers to understand. Adventurers probably aren't gonna be fans of lengthy explanations. So, we could only prepare a training ground for people who were serious enough to experience for themselves. This was Masayuki's suggestion. Therefore, we planned to make it a mission-style tutorial. Before releasing the permits to enter, they would have to undertake some simple missions. In this way, the adventurers hoping to challenge the labyrinth would learn the bare minimum required for exploration. Vildor and Rammus seemed to have understood after hearing our explanations. That may be great. From my point of view, everything now is too simple to the point of being boring. I hope that you can build a training ground so that these challengers can improve their skills. I think so too. If Milim were to catch a glimpse of those past challengers, she would have lashed out and beaten all of them up. Vildor, Rammus and Miles all gave the green light. After studying the tutorial, we should let them try out some of the amazing weapons and armors crafted in the Tempest Federation. For those who struggled during their actual expedition, preparing more challenging tutorial missions sounded like it would be a fun idea. As well, Miles gave some rather noteworthy suggestions. I see, issuing a guidebook could be an interesting idea. It could also serve as a little tourism brochure. We could introduce the town to the newcomers, and even find some suitable people to write some columns. A lot of inefficiencies stemmed from the fact that no one really knew much about the labyrinth. For that reason, we decided to at least give them a basic tutorial. If we didn't, I doubt anyone would be able to make it past floor 50, where the difficulty really ramped up. And for those who wanted to fully experience the labyrinth, it would be good to prepare a more extensive practice course. Well, the Holy Knights were scheduled to be dispatched for floor 50 and below, which you could say was the real deal. It seemed like we couldn't expect a lot from the adventurers for now, so it looked like we'd have to depend on the Holy Knights to be Rammus and Vildor's playmates. With that, we decided to open the first floor as a practice field. We also didn't forget to prepare an entrance for the new recruits, separate from the challengers. You're right, it would be good to separate them. Okay, I'll make them right away. Rammus accepted it willingly. With everything settled like that, I was about to end the meeting when... wait a moment. Another idea came to mind. To my surprise, it was Masayuki himself who gave his opinion with sparkling eyes. Right now, we only have inns and restaurants and safe zones, don't we? Don't you think it would be a good idea to prepare them on every floor as well? And you see, not having places like restrooms too can be tough. If we're connecting the spaces anyway, we should set up doors near the stairs of each floor. Since there are people who set out for battle without even a sleeping bag, don't you think it would be nice to provide them with a sleeping space for a premium price? What? This guy, could he be some sort of a genius? A restroom, huh? Maybe it's because I no longer have bodily functions. I completely forgot to consider that. I was quite surprised by his insight. I turned to Rammus. She signaled her agreement with a vigorous nod. Masayuki-kun, we will employ that idea right away. Yeah. I'll remove the safe zones and put up doors by the stairs connecting to the rest area instead. Doing this was comparable to offering toilet paper at an exorbitant price next to restrooms that, incidentally, didn't have any. It was a dirty, but nonetheless effective tactic. It seemed that Masayuki was actually quite sharp. If you have any other ideas, please don't be shy. Feel free to speak up, I urged him with a smile. Then, as if were remembering the games he played, he immersed himself deep in thought. Let me see. Is it possible to make single-use save points? I was lucky enough to get to the 10th floor, but now without the pitfalls I think it would take quite a bit of time. For the challengers, this isn't just a game, and I think the total amount of time they need to spend is one of the things that makes the labyrinth especially hard. I see. Surely, what Masayuki said has some truth. With the way the labyrinth was currently set up, it would take challengers several days just to get to the 10th floor. Hearing the idea just now, I realized that all the time spent in the labyrinth created a wealth of business opportunities. How about we go one step further and give this more thought? What that boy there is saying is right. Humans are fragile, so we have to give this more consideration. Baldora was the first to approve Masayuki's suggestion. And just who was the one that gleefully made this labyrinth of horrors targeted towards fragile humans? If they're disposable save points, then I can prepare them with my power, you know. But wouldn't it be more profitable to make an inn for them to stay at? The single-use save points could, in fact, be made. And Reminiscences, for some reason, was surprisingly sharp whenever money was involved. Not at all, Reminiscences-sama. Rather, this is precisely why we should charge a high price for it. Adventurers that don't have any pressing matters will choose to stay at an inn. However, there are probably people who are required to report back regularly. There are also people who would prefer to have at least one just in case anything unexpected happens while they're in the labyrinth. With that in mind, our sales will surely increase along with the return whistle. Seemed like Mayurmiles saw an opportunity for success and wanted to exploit it. Hearing that, I definitely could think of various use cases. If you ended up spending several days in the labyrinth, there could be times where you would want to know the situation outside. Adventurers employed by nobles were in on the action as well, so they might be obligated to report back every now and then. Moreover, aren't there strong monsters guarding the save point on the 10th floor? Well, in our case, my party was easily able to defeat them. I think there would be quite a lot of people who would want to use the save point before challenging those monsters.